And now President Obasanjo has left, and we say he's seeking attention.
Oh, well,
I don't, you know, that worries me. That worries me.
Well, seeking attention, when I used it, I applied it to former great General Olusegun Obasanjo, the Emperor. That's the one, you know, but, you know, the governors, the speaker, Soludo, we that are analyzing it, you know, have some input. It doesn't have to be the perfect answer. It doesn't really have to answer the question, but every argument, just like you said, ought to qualify. You know, for when you look at the governor's position, 2011, they had something at stake. What was at stake was their second term. They used it to negotiate the president's first term. Now, there was nothing at stake. They've served out. Now, they didn't have nothing at stake. All of them suddenly realized that the same Buhari that they didn't support in 2011 could be the Messiah in 2015. You know, it's just, and the funny thing, it's a good thing you line them up like this, because equally, you know, helps us to jog our memory as a people. The class of 1979, the senators, the governors, you know, that went in. By the next election, 4 years later, the next election, over 65% of them were not returned. Why? Because the society begins to address, you know, situations and begin to supply their own answers. Some of the governors, Rimi didn't return, Mobodo didn't return, I think in Ondo, the governor didn't return, the senators, most of them didn't return. Because the society will address situation. But what you have is people, most people now, these guys have left the PDP after putting in 15 years. Most of them have served out their 8 years in PDP. Now they push the reset button, refresh themselves, you know, wore a new clothes, and move to APC to start the cycle all over again. That's what is about to happen. They want to, you know, pull a wool over our eyes. After they have used up their tenure, and, you know, the nation now wants to do whatever, you know, remove the people in position that they don't want to see in position. Now this guy say, you know what? If we remove our toga here and go and wear it here, all things are passed away, and behold, everything will become new. That's what we're seeing. People, and that's why anytime you remember 1983, it brings some people that are thinking properly should be angry with the general for making that coup. Because the system, because if he had been allowed to run its course, we won't be where we are right now. Because the general didn't have that patience to understand that 65% of the people that ran in 79 are no longer there in 83. He said, oh, the system is corrupt. Corruption is a fundamental issue. But you don't solve it with war against indiscipline. You solve it with an institutionalized change. It's not something you shout and get people to lie and roll over in the muddy water for coming late to work. It's not by, you want them to come early to work in Lagos, but you remove the infrastructure change that the great and late Latifa Jakonde started. Because people are living in suburbs and they need to be in the city center, in the island at a certain time. Then you pull a wool, $70 million in the drain, and you want them to make it there by magic. And when they get there through the hustle of Lagos traffic, you know, your soldiers are there at the school, in the secretariat with their bolala, flog them and get them to roll on muddy waters. That's not institutional change. That's not how you effect change. Change is done by infrastructural change. Yeah, go ahead.
You don't seem to agree that in order to meet up with certain dynamics, sometimes there are needs in society for very drastic change. I want you to remember, for instance, when China closed its borders and said, nothing's coming in here. Let us all sit down here and think of something. You know, China is better for it today. I know. I'm sure people like you then would say, oh, why would you close the borders?
China has their own philosophy, you know, and their socialist agenda. They pursued it until China became what China is now. However, as during the break, I started doing, some quick write-up, because change has to be institutional for it to make meaning. Change is not when you start shouting change, 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 and don't have an agenda, a program to support what you're saying. Change is not when people change from your party to another party. That's not change. Change is what are your solution, or what are you profiling for this? I listened to General Buhari the other day, and he was saying, he was addressing the business community in Lagos, and he said, if I get there, I'm going to stop the importation of rice. I'm going to ban the importation of tomato. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to stop that. It's all beautiful sounding speeches. But then you look at what's going on here. What is the man doing in that direction? Did he ban importation of rice? The tariffs went up. For the local rice farmers, they got them graduated into a system. They formed a system out of them. 6 million farmers in Nigeria, 6 to 8 million farmers, properly identified, put in a database, bio-identified, and whatever the rice farmers needed to take their rice farm from ordinary arable farm to something that can compete with the, basmati rice, got it, destoned, got it packaged, got it whatever they needed and packaged. Now you go to the market. My wife goes to the same market your wife go, and you're now challenged. Do I go organic, or do I go with this one? Do I go with this, but now we can parboil, we can package, we can store. There are silos all over the country for the farmers. Now your foodstuff is not, and the food, that's why data is important, because we can say this thing and say, where is the data to support it? I say, this is the data. Where is it in the market? If you go to the market, you'll see the Abakaliki rice, you see the Nasarawa rice, you see the rice from Taraba. It's all there. It's made in Nigeria, proudly made in Nigeria. And but the food import bill in 2009 was 1.1 trillion naira per annum. The food import bill now, as at December 2014, is 448 billion naira. That means that government saved 652 billion that would have gone into importation of food. Something must have happened locally that we're able to meet that gap, more than half of that amount. Something must have happened locally.
Okay, look,
so those are fundamental institutional changes that are going on. Okay, but even I understand about people leaving. It's politics.
I want to take you back. I want to take you back to former President Obasanjo, because for me that's the most topical issue in our
I think
politics
we should just brush it up.
Look, it's going to be with us for another, for some time.
Thing about Obasanjo, like I said, I used to live out of the country when he was the president. I used to live in Houston.
I need to comment on something somebody said. Governor Fayose of Ekiti says his leaving the party is good riddance to bad rubbish. Cool. Do you agree? I
mean, I'm not a Fayose apologist. He has his own opinion. I mean, this is politics. He's his party man. If the party, is it not Obasanjo that got fired? Didn't you see the circumstance of Fayose's impeachment? No, you think, but look at it. You're bringing up Fayose. Didn't you see the circumstance of Fayose's impeachment by Obasanjo? Obasanjo, normally, in a sane society, when people have played all their cards, you raise that glass ceiling for them and drown them off. You don't want to hear, because when you look at certain records, you don't want to, because it's this kind of thing that make. So, okay, I was listening to, before we go to answer Obasanjo's question, the Economist, the way they their endorsements, when they endorsed Buhari.
Not just the Economist,
no,
New York Times.
Oh,
the New York Times.
We're coming. We're coming. New York Times. The Economist said the president, Jonathan, has failed to raise Nigeria's economy and guarantee peace, and I can understand security. Hold on.
The president also said himself that his generation has failed Nigerians. Remember,
a generation is a generational issue. Then what about the generation before? It's a generational issue. That I'm not answering the generation problem, but we are dealing with issues as it is now. Then in that same column that the Economist used in endorsing Buhari, they said he appears to be incorruptible, and two, even though he has blood in his hands, he's the best man for Nigeria. Then you go back and you ask yourself, in their own society, will they endorse an angel that has blood in his hands? You know, when you stack it up like that, they are prescribing this APC tablet to Nigeria, and in that same column, the economics is telling Nigerians, even though this man has blood in his hands, QED proven, but this is the right pill for you. In Europe, in America, in China, will they endorse that kind of panacea for our own type of problem? Is it endorsable? Then the New York Times. But even if you're quoting economists and New York Times, it's good to remember the Brookings Institute. That's like, when it comes to politics, global politics, Brookings Institute is the oracle. Over 100 years, no mistake. They are spot on in their prediction. When they say this is how it's going to happen, from what they are looking at, because they feed on data and they are not influenced. They look at the data and said, based on this data, then after Brookings Institute and that person, the US government, Obama's administration that has not been very supportive to this government, raised John Campbell, the former US ambassador, set up a committee for them to go to Nigeria and look at it and submit a report and tell us what they think about the presidential election in Nigeria. John Campbell just submitted his report, and the report said President Goodluck Jonathan is going to emerge the winner. Buhari, hold on. Let me tell you something. No, before we go there, he said Buhari is going to come strong second, and White House is not. They've been unsettled since the report. They're moving into the next game plan because they've been unsettled. Because when you look at it, some people say, because when you see conspiracy, it's good to understand this election is not about Buhari or about Goodluck Jonathan. It's about Africa rising and some people deciding to give us Libya situation instead of Africa rising. It's about over 30 years of no infrastructure change in Nigeria. We have livestock in the far north that are selling at affordable rate, and they cannot make it to the south. Now we have connecting rails from Kano to Lagos.
Okay. We'll have to take calls.
All right, go right ahead.
But when we come back after the calls, I'll take you up on. You talked about institutions, raising institutions, but humans make up the institutions.
That's right.
And when you have humans, a human society where corruption goes unchallenged almost, then I wonder how you build strong institutions.
Good.
Okay, we'll take the phone calls now. Hello.
And that's what is happening. It's an election year. She's kind of discolor. What she's actually did right now is trying to spit on the grave of Alhaji Lateef Jakande. The project, the feasibility studies has been done. The EPC work has been commissioned. The mobilization fee has been paid. About $70 million have been put on the table, and if you walk out, you lose it. So it has been done. The right of way has been approved. Everything has been done. And in Nigeria, we have the laissez-faire law. The government owns the land. So if government wants to relocate you or resettle you, they provide an equal measure consideration for relocating you from point A to point B. They've done it in Morocco. Yeah, government has done it in the past. Once a right of way is established, people are then the other guy was talking about, I can't remember exactly what he said, but the government, this government, you can promise 20 things, but when you come in, certain things start changing based on the challenges on the ground.
What's your final word?
My final word is that...
Because the politics is heated now. What would be your final word?
My final word, if I can summarize this, is that we have about 57 million Nigerians on the internet. We have about 18 million of them on Facebook. And this access to the internet should not be taken lightly. People should verify what is being said and what is not being said. They're saying 16 years of PDP and 16 years of Obasanjo, whatever. But 15 years of APC in Lagos State. The longest road project that has been done is going from law school, to Ajah. And the only thing they succeed, that distance is about 45 kilometers. And what has been succeeded to do is 15 kilometers. So it's about 1 kilometer per year. So that's the flagship of APC. And those are the things you judge. We deal with data.